What's up guys, Tom from the Airsoft Headquarters here, and welcome back to the channel. Of course, I've got another special item just for you guys. Now, of course you already know what it is based on the thumbnail as well as the title of the video. However, just to give you a quick little background, if you don't already previously know, KWA has been in the airsoft market for a long time, like almost as long as G&G has been around. So really it's no surprise when we see a lot of innovation, some newer products, and of course with every type of manufacturer there are going to be some rough patches. And one of the rougher times for KWA was when they were producing the gas blowback Vector, which you can see showcased right here on our homepage by myself. If you guys don't already know, with the gas blowback vectors that KWA was producing, they did not legally hold the license to Chris Vector. So over in the European market, it is still a thing. I don't think they are still in production, but it is very common over there. Here in the US, that was shut down pretty quickly. And so while we do have officially licensed Chris Vectors by Crytek, in my personal opinion, the KWAs were much better. So KWA, kind of a tip of the hat to themselves, decided they were going to make something that is very similar, but different enough to where licensing is not really so much of an issue. And that is where the TK.45C, the compact, as well as the full-size TK.45 is going to come into play. Now, first initial looks, this is very much a Vector-esque type of platform. So in order to keep that design still going forward and being able to produce a very high-end, very reliable AEG platform, they went with the TK.45 series. Now this in my hand is the TK.45C. However, for simplification, I am not going to keep saying TK.45C. If I just say TK.45, I am in this video referring to the TK.45C, just so you guys know. Now, first thing about this is that this is a very heavy platform. The rail system is a very thick aluminum metal. The upper and most of the lower here is all metal as well. The grip, this big extension piece, is polymer. The stock and the stock base back here are going to be polymer as well. So you do have some lightweight systems, the magazine as well as all polymer. So there are some systems on here or materials on here that do help assist in weight negation. However, the parts that are metal are quite heavy and very thick as far as a material buildup, which results in a pretty hefty CQB SMG type of platform, which has its pros and cons. Of course, one of the cons is it's heavy. After a period of time of aiming down sights, it is going to start to get some forearm wobble. You are going to lose your accuracy and consistency if you're aiming down sights for long periods of time. If you're playing for like a milsim or something like that and you're carrying around, all of that extra weight is going to kind of build up, so at the very end of the day, you're really exhausted. One of the positives of it is that you are assured, without having to be told, when you're holding this, it is going to hold up very well. Now, I don't have one of these that I can go ahead and test to the limits. As much as I want to, I can't do that. So overall, everything is just really solid and pretty sturdy with this. So going up at the very top, like I said before, this is the TK.45C. So this is going to be the shorter of the barrel systems. It has a key mod rail system. It is fluted up here on the 45s. This is not M-LOK, so don't try to attach anything here. You can only attach key mod attachments on the 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. The very top is going to be a Picatinny rail system. Up at the very top here, you do have 3 different slots for Picatinny if you want to do a straight foregrip or a flashlight on here. I think it's a little weird of a look or to go from key mod to Picatinny, and especially a short Picatinny. Either do all key mod or do all Picatinny. That is my personal opinion. At the very top is going to be the United States federal mandated orange tip on there. Really nothing too special, and in fact, I suspect that KWA immediately assumes that players are going to rip that off, throw on a mock suppressor, which I'm assuming you do have to take this entire block off in order to get your 14 negative threads. I don't know for certain. This is not one of my personal guns to go ahead and rip off. At the very top here, for the very front sight, that is going to be just a flip up with the side-to-side adjustments for windage from PTS. Now you don't have to use any sort of button to flip them off, and it does flip up with a very satisfying click. And you do have your rear iron sight, same deal with it's just a pull up, very solid click from PTS. What is unique that I figured out after doing a shooting test is that it actually has a flip up night and day aperture. So during the daytime, you use the tighter diameter hole, and then during the night, you flip it down to a larger diameter aperture. However, a lot of times it's not really necessary since airsofters just throw on any sort of red dot or optic system up on top here. But very, very cool that they put that on there in order to go with the aesthetic, which is just real cool guy. Anyway, going further down, this is going to be the Vector S look. Now, like I said, this is all polymer. So this is one of the more lightweight materials that is on the rifle. Don't know for certain if these are just for aesthetic or if you can pull this off. But either way, it has that Vector-esque look. Along the very front here is the checkerboard grip that you would normally see on a Glock Gen 4. So very cool. It's a very smooth type of texture. It feels nice when you rub your fingers over it. It's not too rough that you might rip up your gloves or cause irritation if you have softer skin. Very cool that the bevel is cut out on the side here in order to help with any sort of grips. I find that the base of the knuckle for my thumb, as well as all of my tips of fingers, fit in really well in those bevels, so I can get a positive grip just on the mag well right here. And I really don't find a need to go with a foregrip since this gives me a really good grip right here. From there, you do have a slight cutout along the bottom here as far as magazine assistance if you are trying to do any sort of speed reload, so you can go at a kind of weird angle, kind of like when you see Glocks or 2011s that have the magwell extension on there. This kind of does the same thing as that as far as helping assist mags into the magwell. However, the bevels or the cuts at on the inside of the magwell really aren't at a appropriate level. It's a very deep bevel, so you still have to be careful when you go and insert those magazines. You do have the Vector-esque trigger guard extension, even though there is a trigger guard here, so it's more of a grip guard, which connects down to the very bottom of the motor plate, which is a little weird if you do need to get at your motor down here. You do have to take all of this apart, which can be a little bit of an inconvenience. The actual grip here is a little unique as well. Along the very front is going to be a checkerboard grip, same as up on the front of the magwell. So again, it's that soft yet positive grip. And on the sides here are a very unique type of swirl. Now this is a little bit more smooth. This is like a very fine type of sandpaper material where it's not rough to the touch, but it's very positive as far as getting a grip on there. Not enough to rip up gloves or irritate your skin, but enough to let you know, hey, you got this, man. So going up from there onto the receiver, the lower receiver as far as right here is going to be metal, and that is going to be aluminum base as well, very thick. You do have a right hand magazine release, and you have a left hand magazine release right there as well. You also have a right hand bolt release or imitation bolt release, as well as the left-handed farther up here. What is a little weird is that the imitation bolt, if you pull your charging handle back, does not actually retain backwards just by pulling it back, like with the MCX or any of the Avalon, some of the higher end G&Gs. Those automatically catch. And in fact, it would be a pretty simple thing to put a little bit of spring assistance along the very top of the, or along the bottom of the bolt release in order to push extra retention upwards on that mag release. And I'll demonstrate by holding upwards on the slide release or the bolt release, pulling that imitation bolt back and back forward, pushing upwards on the bolt release, holds that imitation bolt in place. So you can adjust your hop up. It's a little bit of an inconvenience having to hold that bolt release up while pulling that bolt backwards. I mean, a penny for a small spring underneath that bolt release easily could have fixed this. Not sure if that's something that was kind of missed in the initial production of the TK.45s. Maybe in the future production, they will have those springs in order to retain that imitation bolt backwards if you go ahead, open the dust cover. Don't really know. However, we do have the traditional KWA rotary style of hop-up, so awesome type of hop-up. I'm a huge fan of them. They are proprietary as far as I know. With all of the LM4, RM4 KWAs, these types of hop-up units are proprietary. You would need to modify the hop-up unit in order to appropriately fit. So you are stuck with this. However, you can change your inner barrel and your bucking out. And it's a rotary hop-up. That's the type of hop-up you would want anyway. So with that imitation bolt back, you can hit downwards on that right-hand bolt release. Again, pushing up in order to retain it. You can also hit on the left side that bolt release in order to push that forward. So the bolt releases do work, it's just that inconvenience of having to assist with that imitation bolt as far as pulling it back. Anyway, ambidextrous short selector switch, very positive as far as knowing you are going from safe to semi or full auto, and you have it on the left hand here. So for right-handed operations, as far as using your thumb, it is going to be a larger type of selector length. It is going to be longer here compared to the left-handed. If you're using your thumb up here, you do have to kind of rotate your hand a little bit more since the selector switch itself is shorter. However, from going from safe to semi, very easy. However, you do have to get that rotation of your shooting hand in order to get it into full auto. And likewise, from full auto all the way to semi. And then it's a little tricky getting it from semi to safe. So keep that in mind. Right hand, really not that big of an issue as far as getting that full rotation, thanks to that extra length of the selector switch. I think for the design, I think they did pretty well for putting the left and right here. I was gonna say maybe they could have went with a swinging sling plate. However, with the design as far as the quick change spring and the adjustable velocity spring, I think this ultimately was the better decision. So if you're left or right-handed, stick with your dominant hand as far as the sling plate. I am right-hand dominant, so I do have slings that go over on the left side of the rifle, so I can, have a sling retention system that is right-hand based, but I have enough slack in the sling itself so I can switch shoulders and not have too much issue. Something that is unique for the collapsing stock here, come on, there we go, is that when the stock is all the way flat, it's pretty compact. You can still shoulder it, still shoot. It's very difficult as far as aiming down sights. For my elbow mechanics, a little uncomfortable. However, I do not need to hit the stock release. All I need to do is pull up and I can retract it all the way to the furthest position. Otherwise, just be mindful that going to the middle position, you can stop there. The stock is retained with a 90-degree slot in order to prevent the stock from going any further forward, but the very front cuts up here are at a 45, so it's very easy to continue to pull that stock all the way out. However, the very end position here has 90 degrees on both sides, so you cannot pull the stock all the way out. You need to hit that slide release in order to get that stock all the way out, or stock release, whatever you want to call it. A solid polymer stock extension. The arms on the extension piece that you would normally put your chin on, the arms are going to be a metal base. I think these are going to be more steel. They do feel very, very, very solid. And this extension piece is going to be polymer. So very, very lightweight on the end here. And that is what we have as far as externals. To get to the back of the battery compartment, pull the tab downwards and it just pops out really, really easy. Very small battery space. However, 101 Tech or some other manufacturer is making battery extension plates, so you can put larger base batteries. I don't have anything specifically other than a LiPo that will fit in here. So I would suggest going with an 11-1 in order to get the best performance as well. So keep that in mind. It has a Tamiya connector, which connects to a car plug for a fuse. So if something happens to the gun itself, such as there is a jam and you are overcycling the gun or something, the fuse is going to break, so it prevents any more electricity going into the gearbox. So you preserve as much internals as possible, so you don't get anything more that breaks on the gun. So it's kind of a safety measure, not really necessary, as long as you know what you're doing. So with that, in order to get to your battery space, you are going to need a Phillips screwdriver. So keep that in mind. So there's only one screw inside of this stock that you need to unscrew. Pretty self-explanatory which one to undo. It's a pretty short screw, so you don't have to spend too much time doing this. And just like that, make sure you catch your screw and the washer and the plate. And then you can pull the stock off, being very careful of the wires here if you want to take it all the way off. And this is what the very back of the KWA looks like. Now, to change your velocity, there is going to be a T-shaped long neck Allen that you would put inside of this very small hole on the very end of this tab. So it's pretty easy. If you don't have the T-shaped Allen that comes inside the box, you can just use your palm, press down, and rotate about 20 degrees to the left and pull out your recoil spring and your recoil spring guide. Now, this is where the magic comes into play for the TK.45C specifically. This neck, or this extension, as you turn that long neck Allen, it is going to either extend that neck so the spring then gets further compressed inside of the gearbox, resulting in a higher velocity, or you're going to rotate it a different direction so that there becomes less space inside the gearbox for that spring to be compressed, resulting in a lower velocity. So all the way in like this is lower velocity, and then all the way out is a higher velocity. I opt for somewhere in the middle for about 375 feet per second. All the way out extended results in about 400 feet per second as far as average velocity, and all the way in results in about 350, 355 for velocity. So you get quite a bit of spread. As you play with the rifle, you wear in that internal spring, which results in fluctuation of the output velocity. It usually shifts downwards. In fact, 99.9% of the time it's going to shift downwards. In some very rare cases, it will stay just as is. And then to put everything back together, it's just a reverse of operations. Holding the Tamiya plug and the fuse together, being fairly careful of the wiring, just to get them out of the way. Now in testing, I was using a 7.4 LiPo. For optimal performance, use a 11.1 volt. With the chrono test, I was using a 0.2 gram BB out of this 120 round magazine. Now, like I said before, this is a all polymer magazine holding 120 rounds. There are aftermarket magazines that are cut just above where this extension piece is, which is going to be an 80 round magazine. Now, since it would be completely flat, it would look exactly as is. Something a little bit more streamlined. You know, it saves you 3 inches. I personally think that this is not too much material as far as an add-on. For an extra 40 rounds, I would probably run it as is. All right, guys, so this is the result of the shooting test. I did a 25, a 50, and then just for fun, I kicked this out to 100 feet, just to see what could happen. So first the 25, disregard these two right here. These were my test shots as far as the hop up. Figured out that I needed to go way more, and so took a little break in order to adjust that to further out at 100 feet. It was a flat trajectory. So then while aiming for the white dot up here using iron sights, the impacts were all down here. So that is something to think about. Out of 10 or 15 shots, I think I only did 10. That's a pretty tight grouping. At 25 feet, you can certainly tighten that up with a type or inner barrel, but overall, I think that's really, really good. 25 feet, you can hit a toe, no problem. And then kicked it out to 50 feet, another 10 shots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Actually 15 at the 50. These all hit paper at the 50-foot mark, so pretty good. Again, I was aiming for center. However, same thing that we saw up here at the 25, we did see some drops here, and we do have a more horizontal or a vertical spread. So that is all coming from hop up. Kind of the horizontal difference is going to be the BB moving around in the inner barrel as well as any sort of wind variance. However, looking from bottom to top, that is going to be fluctuation in hop up. And then out at 100 yards, it may be pretty hard to see with this background, but we had 17 out of 20 shots hit the paper target. Now, I wasn't going for body shots, which coincidentally, all of these did hit body that were hits. So that is good to see. I was aiming just for center mass. Out at 100 feet, it is a little difficult in order to line stuff up with the iron sights here, especially with that rear iron sight. Now, granted, I just figured out that I could have used this little tool down here instead of using that night sight, or at least the night aperture. It's just a flip up in order to get to day aperture, which I just realized now, so oops. Anyway, using day aperture, these are going to be the test results. Results may change depending on if you use the day aperture at all, which is going to be covered in the review video if I haven't already, since I'm pre-shooting this since I'm at the shop here. Now, as far as upgrades, of course, like I said before, you can go with a tighter inner barrel, you can change the bucking out, you can change the motor out, you can, of course, change that internal AEG spring. Other than that, there's probably not a whole lot I would change out on here. With KWA, they are fairly well known for being proprietary as well. There's not a whole lot of aftermarket brands that are advertising products such as parts to be compatible with KWA. There are a couple of exceptions, of course, but for a majority of the aftermarket parts, such as springs, gears, triggers, selector switches, all of the accessories here, they're going to be fairly proprietary. So kind of run it as is. The couple of parts that I did mention, that inner barrel, the bucking, the AEG spring, those can be changed out fairly easy. But overall, I think for its lack of aftermarket availability, I think this is a really solid gun. KWA does make very high-end products, which do last very well and perform very well. Of all the people that seem to be complaining about the proprietariness of KWA, seem to be the kind of players that like to put as many aftermarket parts internally as possible, which is fine in a lot of cases. However, that's not really something that you would probably want to pick up. Or that's probably not something you would want to do for this guy. One other thing to note is that in the box, don't fall down now, there is going to be this box, or this bag I should say, which has a KWA sticker, a thank you from KWA, and a KWA warranty card. There is no pamphlet for a manual. You have to go to the KWA website in order to download your manual. So good for KWA for being eco-friendly. However, very inconvenient for players that are maybe picking this up firsthand, are kind of beginners to everything and need that extra assistance by having a physical manual. So I would like to see a full manual in here, especially since there is a lot going on with KWA products, and it would be nice to have, you know, a baseline of knowledge of what people can do by using the manual. So that's really it. All in all, I think it's a really solid gun. If you guys are a fan of the Vector design, this is one to pick up. It definitely does help that it has that adjustable velocity, and this is one that I have considered picking up. I'm kind of debating between the QRF Mod 1 or the TK.45C, since this does look pretty baller. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe, leave a like. If you guys want to see more of these videos, go ahead and subscribe, please. In the future, I'm going to be putting out more higher end product reviews like this. We're still stuck here in our own homes for the state of Wisconsin, so you're going to be stuck with this kind of boring background as it is right now. So stick with me. We'll eventually be able to move back into the storefront. So anyway, guys, thanks for staying around. You guys take care, stay safe, stay clean, and I'll see you in the next one.